Hello everybody, I'm back again with another review, and today's review will be on the game Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is an MMORPG, and the reason why I'm doing a review of this today is because a little while back, they made the base game free to play. So if you like MMORPGs, feel free to give it a shot. It is a very good game, and I have played it for about 3 or 4 years or so, and I still have very much that I have not done. So let's get into it. In Guild Wars 2, there is a wide variety of things to do considering it is an MMORPG. There has to be a lot of stuff to do for people. In this game, it is widely based around PvE, but there are some PvP things that you can do in this game, and it looks pretty good. There's a couple things that you can change where they are on the screen if you don't like all the clutter. I just like to have them here so I could see everything while I'm walking around. So in this game, there is a lot of stuff to do. I'm not going to show much of the game because I don't want to spoil anything. I just want to give a good idea to show if people would like to play it. So in this game, there is mining, harvesting of resources that you find throughout the world. There's PvP. If you are into that sort of thing, you can go to a PvP lobby and it'll send you into matches. There's unranked and ranked. There is world vs. world, which is kind of like open world PvP that you battle over structures for. So it's kind of like a thing that's always evolving and changing who owns what zones, if you're into that sort of thing. Now, the PvE aspects of this game are pretty straightforward. There are a bunch of different classes that fill a bunch of different roles and can do many different things. First, I'm going to cover the variety of classes. There are 3 different classes for each armor type. There is heavy armor, medium armor, and light armor. For the heavy armor classes, there is the warrior, a main... You can assume what a warrior would do in an MMORPG, but it is the main, weapon master. They can use almost any weapon in the game, and they are very skilled at strictly just the weapon skills that they have. Their utility skills are very good, but it's nothing like other classes' utility skills that may do damage and stuff like that. All of the warriors are kind of like shouts and stuff like that kind of just have them yelling and giving buffs to people and or themselves. But it kind of fits the role of a warrior, to where you're just running around and your main purpose is to swing your big sword at things, or little sword at things, or whatever you're using. There is the Guardian in the heavy armor class. The Guardian is a bit squishier than normal, but you can build them to be tanky. They also use quite heavy weapons and have a lot of utility with their kit. They have blinds, which will stop enemies from dealing damage to you on a hit. They have protection for allies, which stop people from taking a lot of damage. They have healing. They are what you would assume a guardian. They make sure that you are not dying. Or they will guard you by killing everything. There are many different ways to play every class in this game. There are just some things that tend to stand out. The final heavy armor class is one that was released a while back. It was not originally in the game, but it is there now. And it is called the Revenant. The Revenant is a... how would I say... I'd say a spiritual fighter. Think of it as them being thrown into a plane of existence, and in this plane of existence, they have seen past legends who have been. So it's kind of like they went into a rift and ended up in a different plane of existence where old legends that died existed. And they have gained their power to use whenever they came back from the rift. Whether it be a dragon that was a legend, a demon, a centaur, an assassin, like an elf or something like that. There were many different legends that this Revenant can invoke, and they all give them different abilities depending on what legend he is using at that time. There are dwarves and stuff like that. He is basically a spiritual fighter. He and or she is a spiritual fighter. That basically covers up the 3 heavy classes. The 3 medium classes, if I remember correctly, are... I believe it's Thief. I believe Thief is medium armor. Wow, I really can't remember very well. There's Thief. There is... Damn. I think it's Thief, Necromancer, and Ranger? I believe. I may be wrong about the Necromancer, but I'm going to assume that it's those 3. If anything, I'm just covering the classes, and I'm going to give you a rough estimate on what their armor class is, because I don't play a lot of the other classes. I mainly play the Warrior, so I apologize if I am wrong about armor class. That really doesn't change much. It just means that if you have armor on a heavy character, you can't put it on a light character if you swap it between your characters. So it's a very small thing, but I hopefully got it right. But nonetheless, I'm going to go over all the characters. There is Warrior, Guardian, Revenant, Ranger, which is based around bows and has a animal companion, Thief, which is your basic rogue, with rogue things that you would expect. I don't think I need to explain a rogue, but just your general dagger, gets bonus damage for stabbing things in the back, and has stealth. General rogue stuff. There is Necromancer, who can summon minions and will spread fear and use his necromantic powers in battle. Whether it be through summoning minions to fight for him, or using painful conditions to harm his foes. Be it through bleeding, which will make them take damage over time. Torment, which is another damage over time that will increase if they're moving, or depends on how much they are moving, and other things like that. Then there is the Casters, which is the Elementalist, which is your basic mage, which is a spellcaster that can change between 4 elements: air, water, fire, and earth. And each of these will provide different spells for the Elementalists, but they are proficient with staves and tend to just be your general mage. If you can think of any sort of wizard, sorcerer, mage, anything like that, that's basically what the Elementalist is. Next, we have the Mesmer. The Mesmer is a very intricate class. The Mesmer is your trickster, basically, that will create illusions of itself. It is a magic spellcaster that focuses on disorienting its enemies and attacking with devastating damage, and or inflicting them with a bunch of crippling debilities. And the last class is... what was it? It was Engineer. Engineer is a class that is built around tinkering. Whether you use a sword and shield, or you use a rifle or something like that, one thing about the Engineer is, unlike most of the other classes, you do not have a weapon swap, which means you cannot have multiple types of weapons equipped at one time. My warrior right now has a great sword on one of his weapon equip slots, and dual axes on his other equip slot. I can go into the hero panel to show you what I mean. This is an equip slot, which you can either choose to use a two-handed weapon or two one-handed weapons, and this is the other set of slots to use either a two-handed weapon or two one-handed weepons.
Is it true?
And you can swap between them on a cooldown. Whenever you are in combat, I believe it is 6 seconds? 6 or 7 seconds, maybe longer. But it's to stop you from constantly swapping back and forth, but some things will lower the cooldown time between swapping between weapons. But the engineer is based around using turrets and different things that it has crafted. I wouldn't say it's like a minion playstyle, but you will place down things that passively do damage on their own and or are their each individual thing. Or they can pull out different gadgets, such as grenades, or what's another one? You can pull out mines. Mines is another one. You can have a bag full of mines that you just run around and place down. So Engineer is a very, very technical class. If it came down to my opinion, I would say that Engineer is the most difficult class to play in the game. Just because playing Engineer with all the different abilities on him feels like trying to play the piano with a person who doesn't know how to play the piano. It is very intricate, but while it is difficult to master, it is fairly lenient on players for it being a pretty survivable class and being able to stack up against a lot of challenge, considering you're never truly alone whenever you play Engineer, because you have a bunch of things that do their own damage, so you can focus on running away if need be. But now that we have all the classes out of the way, there are a fair bit of different races that you can choose. I will go over them one by one. One is called the Sylvari. Sylvari are basically plant people. It's fairly interesting. There's a lot of backstory for each different race, but I will let you find out that on your own. There is the Asura. Asura are kind of like little... It's really hard to describe them, but they are natural geniuses. The entire race is just obscenely smart. Let me see if I can find an Asura NPC. Yes, I can. So,
maybe take a few steps back?
This little guy right here is an Asura.
Wait, maybe it was
they
a red
are
wire.
fairly weird, but they are incredibly intelligent. All of them, every single one. The stupidest Asura is probably 20 times smarter than, like, any human. Next we have the Char. The Char are basically cat people, to an extent. Cat bull people. They're just some weird sort of race. It's hard to describe what they really are, but they are your general race for if you want to run around with a tail. The next race is a Norn. Think of Norns as just being really big humans. Norns are really big humans that come from the icy lands. If you could think of like Vikings and stuff like that, I say like that's what they would generally resemble. Kind of this big, like, you can tell that they like came from some area that was fairly cold, as they tend to walk around in pelts and furs and are very big. And we have humans, the basic generalized race. You all know what humans are. There's nothing really particularly out of the ordinary about them. Just general concept. And I believe that is all the races. Let me try to think to make sure I'm not missing any. There's Sylvari, Asura, Char, Human, and Norn. Yes, that is all the races. So there's a fair bit to choose from. If you like little characters, or maybe you want to make a thief that's hard to find, you can play an Asura. If you like to play cat people, you can be a Char. If you like being basic, you can be a human. Trust me, I'm basic. I make a lot of humans. If you want to be a plant person, you can be a Sylvari. So there's a lot to make your characters around. There's a lot of customization in what you do, and each different race has their own backstory and their own storylines, so it kind of encourages you to at least make one character of every different race. And the gameplay isn't that bad at all, but like I said before, the base game is now free. So it gives everyone a chance to go and try to explore and see if this game is up their alley or if they enjoy it. In some of the expansions are not free. But in some of the expansions you get useful things, like gliders that can help you traverse, and mounts. These mounts also help you traverse. They're not a big deal, but it is very, very useful considering it helps you get around faster, and that can save a lot of time just walking from place to place, which a lot of people tend to get bored of, is just traveling from area to area. So the general fighting of this game is just your general walk around, dodge attacks, and just beat things up. You get loot after killing things. Your general MMO sort of stuff. It's nothing too out of the ordinary, but they give you a lot to do in this game, and it's a very enjoyable game in my opinion. So I would definitely recommend people to try it out. I'm sorry if I can't give more information on this. It's always a hard... it's always difficult to describe the ins and outs of an MMO. Aside from saying it's like, it has MMO things. But nonetheless, there's all of this. There's PvE, PvP. There are dungeons, raids, guilds, so you can even make your own guild or group if you would so choose. And another thing is, there is crafting in this game. If you're one of the people who enjoys crafting, you can gather materials and start to make things and sell it. There is a trading post, which you can sell items to other players, or buy items from other players, whether it be weapons, armor, items like bags to carry loot in, so on and so forth. There is a lot of different stuff to do, and I believe that is where I am going to cut it off, mostly. I'm sure I didn't do it justice, but I don't want... It's always a hard feeling to do an MMO review. I've wanted to do this review for a while now, but I never really knew how to go about it, considering it's really hard to cover an MMO since there's so much in an MMO that it's like you can't really just show one part of it and feel happy about it. But if I tried to show everything, one, I'd either be spoiling a lot of stuff, or I would be making this review last at least an hour. And I do not want to waste everybody's time with an hour of me rambling. But I hope that this has given you maybe at least the slight bit of want to pick up this game, try it out. You can get it at... you can download it for free at www.guildwars2.com, and I will probably leave a link in the description if you want to try out this game. And if you enjoyed this review, or if you plan on trying out this game, feel free to leave a comment on this video and tell me what you think. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great day and that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time in the next review. Bye, everybody.